This is a penny, and I'm going to use it across America in the next 30 days.
Ryan Trahan is a YouTuber who's often had videos that have reached a few million views. But in the last 4 weeks, he's been creating this series, I Survived on a Penny for 30 Days. There's a lot of strategy behind the series, which I want to talk to you about today. You see, there are 4 parts to Ryan's strategy, which are actually ridiculously genius. I want to break it down for you because there's a lot of stuff that people may not realize unless you're looking for it. The very first step is that Ryan is a master of packaging. Now, this concept of being able to go from a penny to a house is actually not a new concept. Ryan himself has tried it in previous series. But not only that, if you go back to about 10 or 20 years ago, the idea of trading a pen for a house was something that had already gone viral in the past. But it's not enough just to have a good concept. The next part of packaging is actually making sure that the thumbnails are really, really good. And how did Ryan do this? He pre-made the thumbnails before he went on the journey. And finally with packaging, one accidental part was that the penny itself is going to disappear.
They're going extinct next year, and there's no way he has one.
So the longevity of this series may come in the form of comments few years down the track where it's like, remember the time that we had pennies? Step number 2 is the habits that he creates throughout the series. But there are 3 parts of this vibrant habit. The first part is that Ryan often uses familiar phrases. So repeatable elements like,
Sleepyheads. Good morning, my friend. Howdy. Good morning, sleepyheads. Good morning, Jeremy. Good morning.
mean that people legitimately integrated this as part of their lives while the series was going on. You can see comments like, I love that my morning routine has now incorporated watching these videos. And that sentiment has been echoed across many people that I've talked to about this series. It's one thing to have a repeatable element, but there's something else. If you create variations in that repeatable element, that becomes something that people really, really like.
The game plan, 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 the game plan.
And so people start to look forward not only to the element itself, but also when that element changes.
The game plan, the game plan, the game plan.
Now, if you think about the psychology of habit, habits are composed of the trigger, the action, and the reward. The trigger is always the same. It's the thumbnail that Ryan puts out. The action is to click on the thumbnail, but the reward is what people actually come for. And Ryan's vlog, comfy style of videography is something that is so positive that people feel really rewarded for coming to his series. And so things like going to have the iced coffee each day to the music choices, which are very similar, are ways that Ryan creates that familiar feeling. It's almost like when you see a friend from high school that you haven't seen in a long time. That feeling at that moment is the same feeling as when you see these elements again and again. If you feel comfortable here, you can feel free to subscribe, and I'm going to talk more about storytelling for retention on YouTube. But there's one defining thing about the series that I've not yet talked about, and it's
Great Reset. The Great Reset. The Great Reset.
The Great Reset is incredible for 4 reasons. The first is that it brings conflict to Ryan's story. This conflict is something that you don't see traditionally in vlogs, but it keeps the viewer really engaged because rather than just a capture of Ryan's life, this is actually a journey that he's going on with a defined destination, but obstacles on the way. And that's way more engaging than just a traditional vlog. The second part of the Great Reset is defined by its unpredictability. You see, people tuned in from day to day to see whether Ryan was going to get reset that day. It's almost as if you had hooked yourself into the video because the hook itself is, will Ryan get reset today? That brings me to the third part of the Great Reset, which is that because it was interactive and because it was open to anyone, it felt super duper organic. In traditional film, things feel super slick, but super slick is not what you want to go for on YouTube specifically. When people come to YouTube, they want something that feels authentic as the most important thing. And because this is open to absolutely everybody, everybody feels like they are themselves part of it. There's one last incredible thing about the Great Reset. You see, Ryan himself is a content creator, and so he knows what other content creators want. You see, other creators have this massive incentive to piggyback on Ryan's content because they themselves will get a lot of content out of it, and they'd be able to get exposure to Ryan's audience. It's almost like you have this open brand sponsorship deal. And in fact, the brand Shopify contributed $69,420 to get that meme lord trophy. But it's a two-way thing because not only does that content creator themselves get the exposure from Ryan, but the content creator exposes Ryan to their own audience. So it means that you have a lot of content creators pointing towards Ryan's video. And so that built-in virality is something that's really incredible. But there's one last thing that if you don't have, everything falls apart. What I'd actually recommend is watch this short very, very closely.
This is Spock, my dog that we bought from the pound for $100. He has no clue what the concept of money is. He's a dog. He doesn't own anything, he doesn't pay taxes, but he does take care of this $3 bone as if it's worth $1 million. As an experiment, I have given him the choice between a $100 bill and his worthless bone. His decision conclusion might just shock you. I could immediately tell he was interested in my proposition. Human money or stinky bone? He was thinking for what felt like hours, and as he approached his bone, I witnessed a change of heart. He chose me.
This is the final piece of the puzzle of Ryan Trahan's storytelling, which is Save the Cat. The book Save the Cat is a famous book about screenwriting, but the title comes from this. Liking the person we go on a journey with is the single most important element in drawing us into the story, which brings us to the title of the book, Save the Cat. Save the what? I call it the Save the Cat scene. They don't put into movies anymore, and it's basic. It's a scene where we meet the hero, and the hero does something, like saving a cat, that defines who he is and makes us, the audience, like him. It's the character in the story that matters, but it's also how the audience feels towards those characters that makes them come alive and makes the whole story worthwhile watching. And these people are themselves lovable in their own way. In fact, it doesn't even need to be people. It can be animals that...
Toro. Toro, what are you doing? It's so funny on the app, they have like a profile basically, and it says Toro likes to chase animals, is leash trained, tries to eat things, which is such a funny... Hey, don't eat that. That's a trash can. That's such a funny way to describe someone. Oh, we're moving. I'm like 95% sure the owner put the harness on wrong, but I'm not gonna switch it because I don't have that authority yet. This is my first dog walk. Look how sweet he is. Look how sweet. I love you, buddy. Oh,
And so there's two types of characters, but there's another two that I want to talk about. One is Ryan himself. The reason that Ryan becomes the person that you want to follow is because he himself is extremely invested in this journey. Let me share with you an insight that most people don't know about. Now, when we think about creating stakes for characters, often we think, oh, I've got to have the character suffer immensely or whatever. So when you think about a character and you're creating stakes for that character, sometimes you think, oh, if that person, is at risk of dying, or if that person loses like $100,000, those are good consequences. Now, let me tell you something. It's not about the magnitude of the consequence that is what makes a character's stakes compelling. It's actually specifically how much the character cares, no matter what the stakes are. When you think about it, the Great Reset only resets Ryan back about $100 or $200. But because he gets reset to 1 penny for all the hard work he's put in, we really feel how much pain Ryan is in when he does that. This feeling is amplified by the videography in a really, really clever way.
The Great Reset.
Great Reset. Great Reset.
He's not at risk of losing a limb, but you still feel really emotionally invested in the way that Ryan is. There's one final character I haven't talked about yet that makes that emotional investment work, and that character is you. Cheesy, right? You see, in Ryan's phrasing, he'll often use phrases like, you guys, and then he'll even have camera angles that are almost like you're sitting across from the table from him. Even the credits with everyone's names helps you to feel included in this process. And so Ryan's journey is not just about Ryan. It's about how you, the audience, are journeying along with Ryan to reach a particular place. Ryan's Penny series is really a kind of triumph in optimizing for the way people feel rather than just purely to try to grab their attention at all costs. This video series can't be analyzed like other videos because in another video series you might look at the retention graph and be like, I need to cut this bit, I need to cut this bit, this is why I lost people. But it's this paradoxical thing of really good vibes that are kind of like the times when people used to just vlog. This is not at all to say that what Mr. Beast is doing is bad and now Ryan's the best. At the core of what makes a YouTube video good, and this will always make a YouTube video good, is that it's what people want. Amazingly, Hayden Hillier-Smith, who's the editor for Logan Paul, actually predicted this kind of shift in storytelling a year or two ago. And so crystallized out of Ryan's videos is one ultimate YouTube storytelling strategy. It's encapsulated storytelling. You've got that Mr. Beast narrative drive overarching. You've got a really strong hook, you've got a grand idea, you've got an anticipated payoff at the end. But it's how you get there, that's the enjoyable bit, and that's what Ryan excels at. And so you avoid shallow, attention-grabbing engagement of the audience, but you also avoid the wandering aimlessness of vlogs. And so that makes a really incredible video, and if you make videos like that consistently, of course your channel is going to grow. If you're interested in more about storytelling, I've got a Skillshare course that you can do that talks all about creative cases in more detail, from Airrack to Beluga, or I've got a course on my own website that talks about storytelling as a whole and how you can construct stories in a way that is really engaging and useful for the YouTube algorithm. If not, YouTube thinks that you'll like this video next. So I try to create more cases, I try to be more helpful, and I'll see you in the next video.